you guys. This is the RetrofloraPodcast. I'm Brenda.
And I'm Charmy, and we're just two crazy sisters with an opinion and a channel.
If you like true crime, conspiracy, and supernatural crap, then this is your channel. Happy Black History Month!
Yes, February!
We don't care what the government says. Happy Black History Month.
Yeah, I'm just really pissed off about that.
Yeah. I don't know what that has to do with lowering groceries prices, but okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, we won't go down our political banter, but trust me, we got a lot to say.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, you guys, happy Black History Month. Hug your fellow Black people because they need the support.
Unless they're like, don't hug me.
Yeah, then don't hug them.
Don't go up to some random Black person and hug them, okay?
Please don't. We do want to take the time to say that we do stand with our Latinos and our Latina brothers and sisters out there who are being, quote unquote, they're being deported because they're illegals or whatever. But I'm doing an eye roll because you can't tell. So we stand and we have your back. So today we're going to jump into it. Well, before we jump into it, I'll say that today is a true crime. I know, it's been a while, you guys.
Yeah, it has been a while.
It's been a minute. I don't even remember what the last true crime was.
Was it the guy who disappeared at the airport?
I think so. That was the last.
Like a few months ago.
Liars.
I still want to know what happened to him.
Yeah, me too. That's one on the
That's
list.
like my ex-guy. What happened to him?
Right. What happened to him? Where's Amelia Earhart? Like, I got questions, okay?
Well, then they found Amelia Earhart.
They found her plane.
Without further ado, let's get into this.
So today we're covering the case of Nicholas Markowitz. And there's a lot of names in here, you guys, so I'll sometimes say who this person is again, remind you who this person is, because it is a lot of names in this case. So Nicholas Samuel Markowitz was born September 19th, 1984 in West Hills, Los Angeles to parents Jeff and Susan Markowitz. Susan was a stay-at-home mom, and Jeff worked in aviation manufacturing. Nick had two half-siblings on his dad's side, named Ben and Leah. Ben was a role model to Nick, even though in their earlier years, the two were opposite of each other. Nick was a reader who played the piano and also did theater, and Nick loved Taekwondo and competed in the spelling bee. He attended El Camino Real High School and started hanging out with Ben more. At an early age, Ben had a hard time controlling his impulses, and he would act out for attention, and he could come off as aggressive. At 11, he began to hang out with older boys, and he and his friend was caught stabbing tires around town with a screwdriver.
Okay, he said stabbing. I thought he meant he's stabbing people. Yeah,
right, yeah, no, he was stabbing the tires around town, which I guess is still annoying.
Yeah, it's not as bad as stabbing people.
True. In the same year, he stole his friend's parents' car with a few buddies and crashed it, damaging 3 other cars. I know, and he's 13 while doing this. At age 13, Ben came home with a gun, claiming he needed it for protection at school. At 16 years old, Ben was arrested and sent to juvenile detention for grand theft auto and assault with a deadly weapon.
He's just done everything.
Girl, he was definitely... Now you can see how him and Nick are the total opposite.
Yeah, they were.
Susan was worried about Ben being around Nick, which... nobody can blame her because yeah. After Ben served his time, he began living with his dad, Nick, and Susan. Ben began taking Nick to parties, and not just any parties, but parties at the house of the biggest drug dealer in that area, whose name was Jesse James Hollywood. And yes, that's his real name.
That's his real name?
Jesse James Hollywood, yes.
That's on his birth certificate?
Yes, his dad has the last name Hollywood as well. He dealt high-end marijuana and other party drugs, and it was a family secret business, so his dad was also doing this, but on the low. He wasn't kind of really on the low, but he kind of was. Half the people knew what he was doing, other half the people thought he was a normal guy. Jesse's dad was the little league coach, and Jesse was looked at as the star athlete who could have had a career in the major leagues, but he injured his back and couldn't play anymore. So he formed his own gang to sell drugs for him, and Ben was one of the members. Jesse would front Ben $10,000 to $40,000 worth of marijuana a week. Ben would then sell it and pay Jesse back the extra cash. So Nick began smoking marijuana and cigarettes behind his parents' back and even ran away from home one time. In 2000, Ben was selling product to so Ben is his brother, just to clarify, okay. Ben was selling product to some clients who accused him of selling dud drugs, which...
Yes, I know what that means.
Okay, well, if any of you don't know what dud drugs, it means they have no effect, they don't work. Ben took one of them to show that they were legit, but nothing happened. He then went back to Jesse and told him he wasn't going to sell bad drugs, which meant Jesse wouldn't be getting his money back, and Ben still owed him $1,200. So furious, Jesse demanded the money back, but Ben just waved him off. I don't know if I would do that if he's the biggest drug dealer in the area, but Ben said he don't care.
Ben got some balls.
He really do. He do not care. Jesse forgave Ben and still remained friends with him. Jesse assumed in time Ben would just give him his money. But after a while, Ben began to avoid Jesse. Ben decided to leave that life alone and get a real job working with his dad, and even got engaged to his girlfriend. One night, Jesse and his girlfriend went to the restaurant that Ben's fiance worked at. When it was time to pay, they skipped the tab and wrote, "Take this off of Ben's tab" on the bill.
Okay, now y'all just... now y'all really messing around.
Right. Ben's fiance had to pay their bill, and she went home and told Ben.
Ooh.
Yeah, I would be so hot if I had to pay the bill.
But it's Ben who has who owes them, right?
Yeah, so he just told her to take it out of Ben's tab. Like, yeah, no. Definitely would have been pissed.
This is why I don't deal with drugs.
Ben was furious, and both him and Jesse began exchanging threatening voicemails. Finally, Ben went to Jesse's house and broke one of his windows, and that pissed Jesse off. So Jesse told his posse that they were going to find Ben and make him pay. On the evening of August 5th, 2000, Nick came home high with cigarettes in his pocket. When confronted by his parents, Nick just walked back out of the house. After 20 minutes, Nick came back, and his parents gave him time to cool off. They would talk to him in the morning. On August 6th, between the hours of 9:30 and 11 a.m., Nick, still upset from the previous night, left his house before his parents could talk to him. At noon, Nick's cousin and uncle saw Nick walking down Eagle Street and asked if he needed a ride home, which he declined. Jesse and his posse were driving around in the exact area looking for Ben. Around 1 p.m., Jesse's van pulled up on Nick, where 21-year-old Jesse Ruge, who we're just going to refer to him as Ruge, because he and Jesse have the same name, so, hopped out of the van and asked Nick where Ben was. When Nick told them he didn't know, Ruge and another one of Jesse's posse began punching Nick, hoping he would tell after a beating, and threw him in the van. There was a witness named Pauline Mahoney who saw what happened and followed the van. She followed the van until she could see the license plate, then went home and called 911. Another witness also called and told the police the same story. It would take LAPD a month to find the van and the person who assaulted Nick. That woman is so brave to follow that van. Well, she wanted to get the license plate, so she followed them. Meanwhile, in the van, Jesse confronted Nick, screaming at him to tell him where his brother was. They then took his wallet, pager, his marijuana, and Valium. And then they smoked it and took his pills, right in front of him. Yeah, I know, right? You're just gonna steal my drugs and then do them in front of me. By the way, pager, because that's what they were carrying around back then, pagers. Jesse threatened Nick, saying not to tell anybody about the kidnapping or he would break his teeth. And with no actual plan, the gang decided they were still going to take the 2-hour drive to Santa Barbara for a party they had planned to go to at Ruge's friend's house.
And they didn't think this through.
They really didn't. By the way, Ruge's parents also lived in the Santa Barbara area, so that after the party they had a place to take Nick. But yeah, they really didn't think this through. And by them, I really mean Jesse. I mean the rest of them followed him, but Jesse really was the mastermind, I guess.
But mastermind Jesse wasn't there. It was the other Jesse.
No, all
they are.
All of them were in the van. When they arrived at the party, they took Nick to the back room and tied his hands and feet with duct tape. They taped a sock over his eyes and put one in his mouth. Then they left and went back to partying. A few partygoers spotted Nick through a crack in the door. Jesse told them it wasn't an issue and for them to keep quiet and mind their own business before flashing a gun. So, can you imagine you're at a party and they just bring some kid in there, tie him up and throw him in the back room? And then
no one says anything?
Well, they're looking like, what the heck? And then Jesse's like, mind your business, and he's flashing a gun. So they're just like, okay.
And that's when you leave and call 911. Unless it's an intimate party where you know everybody, you can literally just sneak in and sneak out.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know that it's wild to be at a party like that. Ruge told his friends they were keeping an eye on Nick because his brother owed them money, and they were holding him for ransom. Which still, as someone hearing that, I would be like, you guys are, what? That's crazy. That's a crazy thing to do. And they still needed a few more hours to find Ben, and then they would return him back to his house. Jesse's posse would take turns checking on Nick and telling him the exact thing they told everyone else. Nick was calm and trusted that they would return him safely. In fact, by the end of the night, they untied Nick and invited him to smoke some marijuana and play video games.
Nick is very calm.
I know.
I'd be freaking out.
I would be too. I wonder if he's thinking they're not gonna harm me because my brother would retaliate or something. Also, we're I don't want to say nervous girlies, but we watch a lot of true crime and stuff.
We're very paranoid.
Jesse and 2 other guys went back to LA for the night, and Jesse told Rugi he was responsible for Nick that evening. Well, that night, the rest of the time. So Rugi took Nick to his parents' house. He told his father Nick was a friend just spending the night. Nick's mom, Susan, however, began to worry. She had not seen him since the night before. She had tried paging him, but he never responded, and Nick had never went this long without telling her where he was. So she figured Nick was at Ben's. So she tried calling him, but he never responded. The next morning, Monday, August 7th, Ben finally showed up at the home. Ben told his parents he was doing work in Arizona and that he didn't have Nick, nor had he heard from him. Nick's parents began to panic, and they asked Ben if there was anyone he owed money to. And Ben then realized that Jesse must have had a part in this. Ben started calling Jesse and other people associated with him, and one person said they had heard Nick was at a party with Jesse and his boys in Santa Barbara.
Is this the same person who saw Nick tied up and didn't say anything?
No, because he said he heard Nick was at a party. So I'm thinking that like word on the street is.
I'm just surprised no one said, hey, there's a kid that's tied up at this. Like, you heard he was there, but you didn't hear about the other part?
I don't know, because like in the beginning of the party he was tied up, but then towards the end of the party he was hanging out with them. So maybe they thought like, oh, everything's cool or something. Even though still I would be like, maybe
this is some weird
I just think they're really scared of him, because I know he flashed that gun and they're scared. Ben figured Jesse and his boys probably took Nick to befriend him just to piss him off. Jesse, however, was worried he had taken it too far and went to meet up with his lawyer. He told his lawyer he and some friends had beaten up and kidnapped someone's kid brother to scare someone to pay their debt. His lawyer told him kidnapping alone was easily an 8-year prison sentence and advised Jesse to bring the kid back home and turn themselves in, so the sentencing would be a lot softer. Jesse did not want to do time in prison, so he decided he had to get rid of Nick, which I feel like is an extreme.
Well, you know what they could do is just get him blacked out drunk and hopefully he never remembers anything.
It's too many witnesses. I mean, even just...
But then you gotta get rid of witnesses.
Right, that's what I'm saying. He's just like, I'm gonna get rid of him, which I feel like is horrible.
But the witnesses still saw you with them, so getting rid of him wouldn't solve anything either.
Yeah, well, they just...
That's why I'm like, just get him blacked out drunk and say he don't remember.
Yeah, because the witness that saw you throw... The 2 witnesses that saw you beating him up and throw him in the van is already concerning.
Yeah. Or they could just flee the country.
Well, maybe Jesse can, because he got money, but yeah, I don't know about the rest of them.
You're all your own. I'm going to Mexico.
No, they need to rat him out. At the end of the day, this is Jesse's plan. But I mean, they had definitely had a part in it, though. Like, beating him up definitely had a part in it.
I'm going to Brazil. I don't think they extradite there.
You know, it's funny you said Brazil, but we'll get into that later.
Okay.
Later that afternoon, Rugi invited a few friends over to join him and Nick, which, as you can see, he's not really taking this seriously. Because he probably doesn't think anything serious of it. He's probably thinking like, oh, Ben will get the money and then this whole thing will be over.
They obviously don't watch the news or anything.
They're not true crime junkies like we are.
But you know this is bad, right?
Among them was 17-year-old Natasha Adams, 16-year-old Kelly Carpenter, and 17-year-old Graham Presley. Rugi told them Nick was just a friend. So it was like a normal encounter at first, and then Rugi told Nick to get up and vacuum the house. So they're all thinking like, why is he being weird? And then while he was doing that, Rugi told the teens that Nick was not allowed to use the phone if he asked to. So they already are thinking like, what's going on? Right, you got your house guest cleaning up your house, and now you're telling us he can't even use the phone. I know. So then they all left and went to Natasha's home. Natasha pulled Nick aside and noticed he had cuts all over his hands. So she cleaned his wounds and asked what really was going on. Nick told her everything that happened. She then asked Nick, why don't you just leave? Because
at this point, they're not really
right. As we can see, he's not watching him at all. So he could have left. But then it's like, he's all the way in Santa Barbara. So he's 2 hours, right, away from where he normally lives.
Yeah.
But I guess he could go to the police. But I'm thinking he really doesn't want to go to the police. Like, he's a 15-year-old kid. He probably does not want to go to the police.
And also was probably going to open a whole bunch of can of worms with his brother, too.
Right. Nick said he didn't want to make trouble for Ben.
Yeah, I was right.
So, yeah. Later, Nick and Rugi went back to Rugi's home, but Natasha felt uneasy about the whole ordeal. She went to her mom, who was an attorney, and told her everything. Her mom told her to call and report this to the police, but Natasha was afraid that if she told on Jesse, he would come after her, so she did nothing. why didn't her mom call the police?
I know. Either one of them could have done
right, because
something.
even if it's like hearsay, she could still tell them like there's a kid being kidnapped, and I'm sure by this time the mom has reported her son missing, so the two can like connect. Especially since she knows his name. Well, she may not know his full name, but she knows his name is Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why the mom didn't call, because I feel like that's a lot of pressure to put on your
daughter.
Yeah, how old is she? 17? She's 17. She's 17 years old. And then on top of that, she didn't even follow up with her daughter. Like, hey, did you ever report this or anything like that? She's just like, report this. Good night. After talking to his lawyer, Jesse called Rugi and told him he would pay him $2,000 if he killed Nick. But Rugi refused and told him he was overreacting. So Jesse called another guy in his posse, 21-year-old Ryan Holt. He told Ryan that if he killed Nick, he would erase all of his debt. Ryan agreed and met up with Jesse that Tuesday, where Jesse gave him a blue duffel bag with a semi-automatic pistol inside, plus an extra $400. Ryan then headed to Santa Barbara.
What's crazy is that Jesse didn't do it himself.
Just like he just made Rugi babysit him. So it's like, Rugi, Nick, and the teens were at a hotel party. Rugi knew of Jesse's plan and began to give Nick alcohol, marijuana, and Valiums. Nick and the teens went for a swim in the hotel pool, and one of the girls asked Nick again, why don't you just leave? Nick said that he could defend himself, and he was positive that he would be going home in the next day or two. Around 11 p.m. that night, Rugi told everyone they had to leave the hotel room because someone was coming by to take Nick home. So it's kind of like so messed up.
It really is.
Like, obviously the teens that are partying with them, like, they don't know anything really. They really think that he's about to go home soon.
Yeah.
And so does Nick. Nick said goodbye to everyone and then fell asleep. He was very intoxicated at this point. Like, Ryan arrived at the hotel and Rugi and him woke Nick up. They were going to tape up Nick, but realized it would be difficult to get him across the parking lot to the car, and they figured he was too intoxicated to run. So they all got into the car and drove 30 minutes to a hiking trail at the Los Padres National Forest in an area called the Lizard's Mouth. Nick figured they were going to another party, so he went with them without any worry. In the early hours of August 9th, the men and Nick walked down the trail, where they passed a couple of hikers and deviated off the path, bringing Nick to an open grave that Graham Presley had dug. So Graham Presley is that 17-year-old that was at the party. He dug that grave.
So he knew.
Yeah, he knew something was up. He knew. Yeah, you're not gonna be digging no shallow grave in the middle of like the mountains for no reason. Ryan told Nick to sit down, and Rugi duct taped Nick's arms and legs and promised Nick he wasn't going to hurt him. Nick responded with, and this breaks my heart, "It's okay, I trust you."
That's so crazy.
This poor boy. When Rugi began duct taping Nick's eyes and nose, Nick began to panic. Ryan then dragged Nick closer to the grave. And I think at this point, Nick realized that he was so wrong about the situation. And I can't even imagine the fear that he had knowing like they're gonna kill me. Like, I trusted, especially like Ryan is some random person, so like forget him. But he really trusted Rugi to like.
Right, they were partying together like all night.
Right, like treat him like he was a friend.
Yeah.
This next part is very heartbreaking, and if you don't like, trigger warning for, I guess, murder. If you don't want to hear these next few parts, just skip ahead a couple of seconds. They then hit Nick with a shovel and tossed him into a shallow grave. Ryan then shot Nick 9 times in the head and torso. He then wiped his prints off the gun and threw the gun in the grave with Nick. Rugi then buried him, and they both left. 3 days later, a woman named Darla Gatzik and her 2 friends were hiking the Lizard's Mouth trail when they heard an extremely loud buzzing sound. They followed the noise thinking it was a beehive and found out the sound was caused by a ton of flies buzzing over a certain area. The smell of death lingered in the air. As they looked around the dirt in that area, they discovered a pair of blue jeans and a white tee sticking out. The police showed up later that day at Susan's door to inform her that her missing son was dead. They told her Nick had been shot execution style and buried in a shallow grave. Natasha saw the news that day and knew she had to call the police. She gave the police the names of the men she expected were involved. By August 17th, police arrested Rugi and Ryan. As soon as news got out about Nick's murder, Jesse left town, emptied his bank accounts, put a payment on a new Lincoln car, and went and collected money from people who owed him. He then fled to Colorado before eventually fleeing to Canada. And from there, Jesse's trail went cold for 4 years. But back in California, Rugi and Ryan were facing trial. In November 2001, Ryan was charged with first-degree murder and placed on death row. That following year, Rugi was convicted of aggravated kidnapping for ransom or extortion. He served 11 years behind bars, which honestly, he should have done a lot more. Like, I know he didn't pull the trigger, but like, he set him up. Graham was tried twice, and in July 2000, he was retried on the murder trial and was convicted of second-degree murder. Because he was 17 at the time of the murder, he was tried as a minor and served time at a juvenile detention center until he was 25. But Nick's family wasn't done. They wanted the man who put a hit out on their son. In 2003, a filmmaker named Nick Cassavetti reached out to the family. His daughters went to school with Nick, and he wanted to make a movie about Nick's murder called Alpha Dog. So if you haven't guessed already, this case, the movie Alpha Dog is based off of this case.
I feel like Gen Z would not know that.
Probably not, because I'm not going to even...
they've seen it.
I'm not even going to lie. When I typed in Alpha Dog on IMDb, yeah, it's like nowhere. I mean, like, we have a website where we can watch it, but like, it's literally like on Amazon Prime, and that's it.
Yes.
So Alpha Dog stars Justin Timberlake, Emil Hirsch, and the late Anton Yelchin. And you know Anton Yelchin.
Yeah.
He passed away when in like kind of like a freak accident. His car ended up rolling onto him. I know.
I remember him from Criminal Minds, but I don't think you saw that episode.
No, but I don't know where I know him from.
Well, he's also in Star Trek.
Yeah, but I didn't really watch the new Star Treks. I did watch some of the old Star Treks because like our dad was making us watch them.
What else was he in?
Okay, I looked at the movies and I don't really know him in anything except for Alpha Dog. Which is crazy because he voiced somebody in Ghibli Studios movie called From Up on Poppy Hill, which I love, but I don't know who he voiced. But yeah, I guess I don't know him for anything else except for Alpha Dog and Star Trek, but I didn't really watch that religiously, so.
Yeah, I've seen Criminal Minds, every Criminal Minds episode like 1,000 times, so I've seen him on there.
The family agreed to do it, but under one condition, that the filmmakers help fund the reward money in the hunt to find Jesse Hollywood. The director agreed. He then hired Jack Hollywood, Jesse's dad, as a consultant on the movie, which honestly is a slap to the face.
I feel like his dad is really like, he don't care about his son at all.
Dude, how you gonna hire the guy whose son murdered my son as a consultant on this movie? Like,
that's crazy.
That is so crazy. He then also contacted the district attorney's office, who agreed to work with the filmmakers, which meant the filmmakers had access to the file archives on the case. During pre-production, the officers on the case felt the pressure to solve the case. They knew that they had to find Jesse before the movie came out, so they didn't look bad. By March 2005, Jesse had gotten a fake Brazilian visa passport and changed his name to Michael Costa Giro. So
I'm telling you, they don't extradite you in Brazil, so if you commit a crime, y'all, go to Brazil, you good.
Don't listen to anything she's saying. Do not commit crimes.
Well, don't commit crimes if you happen to commit a crime. And you don't
go to jail, okay? You reap what you sow. Go to jail.
What if it's an accident?
Then whether it's an accident or not, your actions cause someone to die.
Okay, well, it's just...
You can't just run away from that.
It's an option, okay?
Do not take this option, okay? Jesse had married a woman named Marcia who was with child, and his father would still send him money to support him.
So his father knew where he was?
His father knew exactly where he was.
His father is just like, I'm playing the field on both
right,
sides.
He really was like a double agent. But honestly, do you expect a father to give up his son? I mean, I don't know. If my kid was...
He's literally consulting on a movie about his son murdering somebody.
I agree. And he knows exactly where his son is. Yeah. He's a douche. He's the major douche, and his son is Douche Jr.
Oh my god.
Police had an agent pretend to be his long-lost cousin. She contacted Jesse and told him she was in the area and wanted to meet up for lunch, and he agreed. I'm just curious to why you want to meet up with your long-lost cousin now, after
so long.
Right, like you're on the run. But I guess he's like, I'm in Brazil. Nobody knows where I am. That's what he's thinking. I'm thinking that's what he's thinking. I don't know what he's thinking. So on March 8th, 2005, Jesse went to meet her for lunch and was arrested. That same day, police also arrested Jack Hollywood on charges of mass production of the date rape drug GHB. So not in abating a criminal or anything like that, just for the date rape drug.
Well, if he moves out of the country, what are you supposed to do? Drag him back? Like,
no, but he's financially supporting him.
Yeah, but I don't think that's against the law.
I think it is against the law to be supporting someone who's probably on the FBI's most wanted list. He knows the police are looking for his son. He's working with the film crew.
They arrested him in Brazil?
They went and got Jesse from Brazil, yes, but they arrested his dad in
America.
In America, yes. So they went to Jesse. They went and got Jesse.
Is that legal? You have jurisdiction over here?
Yeah, but maybe they're like, get this illegal out of my country.
Usually Brazil don't care.
And the police arrested Jesse and his father around the same time so that neither one of them can warn each other.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
you said mourn, not
warn each other. You know, like if one of them goes to jail, they can use their one phone call to call the other one and tell them. Yeah, so they arrested him around the same time. They was like, you're not playing no games, no more running or none of that. Jesse was flown back to the United States, booked and kept in solitary confinement. But because the DA's office shared case file information, the DA's integrity was questioned, and the people questioned if he should be able to remain as a prosecutor on the case. Because the DA was showing, I guess, classified information, like different documents to the film crew, it kind of compromised their integrity. But the issue was resolved by the Supreme Court, and he was allowed to remain on the case. In 2009, Jesse was convicted of kidnapping and first-degree murder. So, even though
he didn't pull the trigger.
Yeah, so if you hire somebody, if you hire somebody to kill somebody, you will be charged with first-degree murder as well. In 2010, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, and Jack Hollywood received an 18-month prison sentence. Which he was distributing. He was a drug dealer, man. I feel like 18 months is not a long time.
It's not.
But it is. I mean, I guess like he didn't pull the trigger because Ryan is facing the death penalty, which I think later got changed to life in prison. So he's spending the rest of his life in prison. And Rugi is out. He only did 11 years, so he's out. And so yeah, that's the case of Nick. It's so messed up because he had nothing to do with anything.
He really didn't.
He was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Like this I don't know, it just feels so weird. It's kind of like how like Final Destination stacks up. Like it's just, no, I mean like he so happened to get into an argument with his family and be walking around the same area where the guys who are looking for his brother are. You know what I mean? Like it's just so many coincidences that led up to him being taken. That's coincidence. Yeah, so that is the case. In this case, it really pissed me off because what the heck, man?
Honestly, you should have just got the kidnapping charge.
He really should have, because now you have life in prison. You should have just got the kidnapping charge. And you had a good lawyer. Like, I'm sure they could have, like, well, I don't know, you might have been spending 80 years in prison.
Nah, probably, like, maybe a year.
I don't know. It depends on really how Nick would respond. I wonder if he would have...
Because Nick felt like he was cool with them.
Right. So I wonder if it would have been different. If he would have been like, no, they didn't really kidnap me. I went with my own bullet. Like...
Yeah. Besides, the beat up marks.
I know, but then he could also try to say like, oh, they just beat me into the group or something like that. Yeah. If you know what I mean? Like, he could have played this off. Jesse really jumped the gun. Like Ruby said, you are overreacting.
Yeah.
Killing him over taking a kidnapping charge is crazy to me.
Yeah.
If anything, you could have dipped on that, ran out of the country on that kidnapping charge. Yeah, that's what I was saying. You could have dropped him off and dipped. Mm-hmm. So you guys, we're going to, we've watched the movie, so we're gonna compare the movie and the case together, and I will tell you who played who in the movie and the case. And then in the movie, they have fake names, so they're not the actual names in the case.
Because then they get sued.
Yeah. Even though they got permission for the family. But I don't know how... I mean, I guess just because they...
from the actual
everybody,
people,
yeah. So, even though if you really want to find this information, it's on the internet. Yeah, it really is on the internet. Okay, so Emil Hirsch plays Jesse James Hollywood. Justin Timberlake plays Jesse Rugi. Ben Foster plays Nick's older brother, Ben, which is ironic that his real name is Ben, and he also plays Ben. Sean Haddisy plays Ryan Holt, and Anton Yelchin plays Nick. Sharon Stone.
She was in the movie?
Yeah, she was in the movie. Plays Nick's mom, Susan.
You know what's so funny? When we were watching this, I was like, there's a lot of blonde white people here. And I kept getting them confused. Because Amanda Seyfried's in here, isn't she?
Yes.
And Amber Heard was in it too, before.
They play the two teenagers.
Mm-hmm. But then there was another blonde girl who was freaking out.
Oh, yeah, sorry. She plays Natasha. She's the one who went to talk to her mom, and we remember they went to...
That was Amber Heard?
No, sorry, that was the blonde girl who was freaking out, whose name...
So it was 3 different blonde girls.
Yes, Amber Heard, I think she just she just came in, like they just threw her in for the movie.
She didn't have that big of a role.
Yeah, no, she was just there for the movie.
And then there was that one brunette girl. She was the one I just memorized because she was a brunette.
Yeah, she just... I don't know who she was supposed to play either, because we only talked about 3 teenagers. The other people came over, but their names weren't...
Yeah.
They weren't... I don't want to say they were important, but they weren't really as important to the case. Like, Amber Heard's character wasn't really that important to the case. She's just another witness. Mm-hmm. Bruce Willis played John Jack Hollywood. Yeah, and so there was a lot of other people who... But I'm going to give you those main people, because this is a whole list of who played who, but...
And the guy from The Notebook was in it, too. The dad.
Yes, he played Nick's dad.
Yeah.
So those are just the main cast who played them. Yeah, so comparing the actual case to the movie, obviously the movie is always based upon, so they're never going to put every detail to be exact. But one thing you brought up, and I did kind of was a little about, was how they made Jesse seem like he was like, all right, let's just give him back. When in the case, he wasn't like that. He wasn't like, let's just give him back. He was like... Before
the decision to get rid of him, they had a whole scene where he's like, okay, well, let's just give him... I guess they were trying to say, like, they would have him call before they did the execution, and he didn't call, but he was thinking about calling to stop it. That's what you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about when he called him on the phone, and he was like, he was like, he's not gonna tell all the stuff, like, we could just make it seem like he ran away with some girl. And he was like, you know what, yeah, you're right. And then this happened in the movie he ended up calling Nick's brother Ben, and Ben's like, I don't care anything, I will find you and I'll kill you and all this stuff.
I didn't really give him a case to let him go.
And so it seemed like he was like, all right, never mind, just kill him.
Yeah.
Which, after getting all that, you didn't think that killing him would be... He knows you have him.
Yeah.
But I didn't like that they made him seem like he was like, okay, I'll let him go home.
Give him
like they made sympathy. They made him more sympathetic, and I was just like, nah, bruh, you killed a 15-year-old.
Also, that scene was very, very hard to watch. Like, I was tearing up.
It's a little different in the movie, but the movie makes it worse.
Yeah.
Because, like, in the movie, the kid, I believe his name was Graham, who dug the grave, was just... Oh, you could tell he didn't want to do it. He went over there and hugged Nick and everything like that, and just went in the car.
Yeah. Well, yes, Graham. But Justin Timberlake, I wanted to punch him so bad.
I wanted to punch him too, because like...
Especially like, it's okay, I won't hurt you. And like, you are such a liar.
Yeah. Oh, it's just so hard hearing him beg. Like, I'm not going to tell anybody. Like, he really was like... He was scared, and Justin Timberlake, well, we know
Rugi, his character.
Yeah, was literally telling him, like, you're gonna be fine, like, trust me, and all this stuff, and he killed him. And what was making me really sad was the coming up to the execution, where he's like, my mom's gonna be pissed, I need to be more nicer to her,
like him trying to,
like she's really my best friend, and I was just like, dude, he's like, I just can't wait to go home. And I'm sitting here like, oh my god, you guys are sitting here listening to this, and not once did the thought occur in your head that, you know what, this clearly is not what we should be doing. And you know what pissed me off? I'm glad they showed this part, because I really wanted to know what Ryan, but the guy who played Ryan, how he went to his friend, was like, you gotta hide me and all this stuff, and he's like, bro, you used my mom's car to like kill somebody, so no. And I get, in the movie, they made Ryan like Jesse's,
the punching bag.
Yeah, like and little
they made him want to crave recognition from them.
Yes.
And so when he says, I'll stop doing this if you do this for me, and I'll give you recognition, then it's like, okay, I can see why he did it, but still, it was messed up.
And then something that was different in this movie than in the real life case was his dad coming to him and being like, where's this kid right now? Like, everybody knew like he had something to do with it, as opposed to in the case they did not know that he had something to do with it. This was awful, dog. This was the case of Nick. And
do you think the movie was fairly accurate, or do you think that Hollywood added more stuff?
I mean, they added more stuff, but I really think it did captivate what happened, like who he was and his life. Well, the limited amount of time we had to get to know him, and just seeing how it's one thing to hear a case, but it's another thing to see it play out in front of you. And when you see it play out, when the people who are affected and are in this case are relatable, and you get to see them and they're moving, and it made this harder, and it made me more upset, because I feel like Jesse Rugi should have got more time. Like, I just didn't feel like 11 years was enough. after seeing, like, and I know this is the movie, but just after seeing, like, how much of an influence he had, how he had the opportunity to let him go, and he didn't. There were so many times where he could have been like, all right, I'm not doing this. Like, I'm standing up. Like, even to where I know they're saying, like, do you really want Jesse on your bad side? Like, bro, you can leave the state. Like, Jesse not about to follow you like that. So it was a lot.
My heart goes out to the family. I can't imagine what they went through.
Yeah, I know. I honestly wonder how they felt watching this movie, because that end scene is really hard to watch. And I can't even imagine, like, having to relive the entire case is hard.
I also thought the lady that they had at the end was the actual mom, but it wasn't. It was an actor.
Even then, like, hearing her pain was still hard.
Yeah, even watching that was hard too.
Yeah. So overall, I like this movie, but I also hate it too.
Because it's
like, I hate what
true crime.
Right? Yeah, I hate that this really happened, but I thought that the actors did a great job.
Yeah, it was good
Especially
acting.
Ben was scaring the crap out of
yes,
me.
the phone call.
Yeah, he's like, I will kill you.
Yeah.
You can run. I will find you. I was like, whoa, I'm scared.
No wonder Hollywood was scared.
Yeah, he should be scared though, because you messed with the wrong person. This is really F around and find out, and he really was about to find out.
Yeah, he was scaring me. And he knew kung fu.
Taekwondo. He really did. He came in there and started whooping everybody. I was like, oh my God.
He was not playing.
He really was not. Don't mess with Ben. But I also wonder how he felt. Like
this was his fault.
Yeah, like watching this movie and seeing how things played. I mean, it didn't exactly happen the way it did, but like just knowing that like he indirectly had if you know what I mean, like cause. Like he didn't necessarily put his brother at harm's risk, but because he was his brother, he became high risk, and it sucks because he really did not do anything. He was just minding his business walking down the street. Well, you've made it to the end.
You must like the sounds of our high-pitched voices and quirky commentary.
You might as well like and subscribe to our channel and hit that bell to be notified every time we drop new content. If you want to follow our social medias, they will be linked in the description box below.
Bye!
Bye, you guys. Happy Black History Month.